we're gonna start painting this bad boy. Main color is white, Liquitex Basics, and then I'm going to use the gloss glazing liquid next to it. What I'm doing is I'm taking the white, putting it over here, taking some glazing liquid, putting it over here, and then making sure that they both mix together. And what you want to get it is where it feels sort of like a thick cream. I'm going to start with the big areas. I'm using a nylon square brush, very cheap, and this isn't detail work. The secret of a good paint job is thin coats. Lots of thin coats. The thing that this paint is really highlighting is that there are still a few areas that need to be sanded. And that's fine because this gloss glaze will dry fairly hard and it's easy to sand. So we're in luck there. What you want to really avoid are any lines off of your brush that will dry as a line like that. But right now we're just doing a base layer and I don't want to get it too thick. It kind of glimmers in the light. That's because of our glaze. So we're going to let this dry. And then we're going to do a little bit of sanding. Without further ado, let's take our mix that we've already mixed and let's start base coating again. Now I'm adding a little bit more gloss just to the face. It helps with the slip of the paint. Also, I want to seal this wood filler. Right now, it's almost not as important about the white as it is about sealing. You want to make sure that everything is super smooth. So you really want to get into a flow with this where you're just putting it on and then moving the paint around where there's no brush marks. It just feels right. She's so glossy that you notice every single little mark. Now I'm holding on to these legs. I always say to be cautious, and I'm mainly saying it to myself because those can snap off, because the fulcrum point, all the weight is here, and I'm painting way back here. So the leverage on her legs is quite heavy. So we don't want to snap off those front legs because I do not want to glue those back on again. I think half of the battle of some of these things is knowing how to fix what goes wrong, because inevitably something's going to go wrong. If you know how to fix it, then you won't be terrified of everything that you do. I'm just sanding off little teeny nubs that have shown up on the paint, which is pretty normal. And then this glue area, I'm just really going over it so lightly. Just to blend that in. So now dust it all off. So let's take our brush and get started with the paint. I'm going to start on the face again, so I'm going to make sure that this is nice and thin. Get a lot of the glaze on there so that there's a good amount of slip on it so that it's a nice thin coat, because we don't want to lose any detail. I am using Golden's Manganese Blue. This is a beautiful bright blue. It's mainly for the beginning of a base coat. Since there's a gradation on here, of course it's going to be covered, but we want to get some color on here first. I'm using a electro-coated abrasive paper CW600. This is just, you know, a cheap paper from sandpaper from Amazon. And all I am doing is just very, very lightly scratching the surface. I decided what I'm gonna do is not paint the legs until I've painted the entire body. And now I'm gonna take a drop of phthalo blue, manganese, and teal. And we are going to start our gradation. I want a bit of white in here, and we're gonna do this a few times. So this is just the beginning. And I'm not being really random about this. I'm following the idea of hair. I'm following these facets. Each facet, I'm trying to almost highlight boxes. And I'm also highlighting like where the light would hit, where it wouldn't hit, things of that nature. And also keeping in mind that in the Borderlands world, everything is outlined. So this is all going to get outlined in black. And don't forget the underneath. Get in there, get in there. The glaze adds to the slip, but I'm adding this because it extends the dry time, and with a gradation you really want to extend the dry time. And this gradation actually looks pretty good already. I don't want it to be too perfect. So we're just gonna mix on the model. I'm putting kind of this thick coat on right here because I'm not gonna mix any more in. I'm just gonna start going darker and darker. And I'm going to let the thickness of the glaze above kind of help with the gradation. We're going to add thin strokes of the darker color. Let's just kind of start the idea. And at the bottom, have a little bit of the lighter color. Now these down here are mainly dark purple. But if a little hit of that shines through, of that blue, it just sells the hair a little bit more. You have to be really careful not to hit the white. We're gonna go under here with some black, and then we're gonna go up here and add little hits of the purple. Now we're going to hit this tail, and I'm going to do it lightly. And the reason is because I'm pretty happy with the tail already. I just want to get some of those streaks. I want to get it to look a little bit more like this one. I actually really want the tip of this to be almost black. This is time to be bold with stuff and just go for it, because in this blending process you can kind of go back and do more, and almost in a way, the more streaks of different colors you get, the better it looks. Whatever you do on this side of the bow, you should always do a little bit on the other side of the bow, because the bow is not a, you know, it was put on afterwards, so the hair is all the same. You can really see what I'm starting to go for here. This side really is taking it well. Yeah, I'm digging that side. A little hit of this and that here, very tiny little marks. So now we're getting to the part that really sets things apart, and that is the details. As you can see, I'm using a different brush for this because I have to get into areas. I have to get into this, but I don't want to touch any of it. Kind of the glittery unicorniness of this particular model, it gets taken away by this kind of green hue that happens, kind of darkens the white. We want a little bit of the green because the unicorn reflects all kinds of colors, but I really want to keep this one as close to white as possible. I'm going to add a little of this unicorn milk and then come through with this interference violet that'll add that violet and green sort of hue when you move her around, and then the pearlescence of this unicorn milk should actually make her look more unicorny than the first time that I did it. Mix this around. I'm using a small brush just so I can get all the details. That looks really good. We're gonna try this out. It's the mirror from Culture Hustle. I was hoping it would make this look kind of like Mylar, and it does. Look at that! Can you freaking believe that? Oh my god. That is cool. This silver, like Lord Voldemort, would be able to keep himself healthy for years. Look at that. Like it's like it's chrome. I pretty much use this on every piece that I create. And I am using a long thin brush. So I'm just doing a base coat over this unicorn horn. It's always best to stabilize your hand some way, because I'm holding her up, she's gonna wiggle. I'm gonna go with the contour of the print. Trust the print to a certain extent. That really makes a difference. She's already starting to come to life. Put a big blob in the center, and then I work my way out. Because I'm right-handed, I have to do this center, and then I go back over it from the other end back to center. If you were left-handed, you would do that the opposite way. It just makes it so that you're always going in the direction that your hand is strongest. I'm stabilizing one hand off of the other hand. And it's so small, and I want to make sure that my brush doesn't have a great big blob on the end of it. For these braids, what you want to do is pretty much a jagged line. And I'm doing this very lightly and with heavily watered paint so that I can get rid of it if I have to. So what you want is for the braids to face down. I'm just putting ever so slightly these little lines of the black to indicate hair. And then we're just going to go through and do a few highlights. So we're going to put a little bit drop of this teal and this manganese, our Liquitex, and we're going to put our gloss glazing liquid so that we can get kind of a transparency to it. So then right here, we just want to pop this a little bit more. The silver, although it's awesome, it's silver, and she has purple bows in her, on her tail. I tried just painting over it and it just didn't work. So I added a little bit of glazing liquid and it seems to be working. So now we're going to do the feet. Kind of fill it in as you go. Just want this to look like tufts, you know. Now I want to put just a little bit of an eyeshadow on her. So it's a really good way to figure out where you want to put the highlight in the eye. If you just leave the eye wet and then you move it around and see where it is that it looks best, and actually just center eyeball looks the best to me. It definitely looks like lashes. Okay, so what I have here are the supports, and these are tree supports. You can either do box supports or tree supports. I always choose the tree supports simply because they make these really cool organic shapes. And I've found that in problems like the one I'm having here with this Buttstallion not having its horn completely print out right. This is actually a much bigger horn that also did not print out right on a much bigger Buttstallion, which also did not print the head right. What I did is I've already made a horn using this process, and it worked pretty well. And what's nice about this is that I can actually get to the eye before I attach this. In a way, I'd almost cut this off of here to begin with in order to be able to get to that eye. So I'm going to use this piece, and I'm going to incorporate this piece and possibly this piece. But what I need to get is that transition from this size to these sizes. And it's looking like this is about the only thing I have on hand. So we got to do what we got to do, because this is a make it work kind of situation. So we're going to clip this at an angle. Yep. So there's the angle. There's our angle. And then we got this one, and that goes at that angle. So in order to attach that, we need to cut this at this angle. So now we got an angle there. We got an angle there. So when these two go together, they'll go like that. Okay, so what I'm seeing on this is this backward angle is going to be a little bit tricky, but for some reason, this is looking kind of nice. This one here. So I'm going to cut this one out. It's interesting. You see how this prints like this, but that came to a point. So obviously I did something there in order to make that come to a point. And I'm wondering, maybe I cut this back even more, which would make this fit better. Well, I think I'm going to do that again. Because that's so close to the horn, I want to make sure I am very, very gentle. We might be able to use this section in maybe our upturn. That's looking more familiar. So I removed this. I actually used these gaping open areas to almost use as a joint to put this in, and then I could put it at an angle, and then that way I can get these funky angles. We are sticking this guy into this guy. in creating that. Let's take some super glue. It does not take much. Try not to super glue your hands, which I'm guaranteed I'm gonna super glue my hands, because that's what I do. It wouldn't be a project without a super glued finger or two. Very, very little. Gotta do this quickly. Put that guy in there. Hold it for a minute, get the right angle. Et voila. I don't think I got it on my hands. I think I want to do something like that. Now we want this one to go this way. We're going to be putting some wood filler in here, our good friend. We're going to be stabilizing the walls in other ways, and also we're going to be fitting this smaller guy inside of this bigger guy. So what we're going to do is glue this here, and as you can see, it comes off with an angle. It also, on the bottom, has these great facets coming off of it, which are going to make it work. It comes right off of the eye, so you can see the eye, and it's got a piece right here that's going to fit our very weird piece that we just made and make that come like that. So what we're doing next, wood filler. We put some filler on here. Now I'm just doing a very light filing. All right, well, I think we're done. I mean, I think she turned out really great. I'm pretty excited. I think that this project really nails one thing, and that is that even if you don't think that you can do it, even if you don't have the perfect scenario in your workshop, even if you don't have the perfect paints, you don't have the perfect brushes, you don't have the perfect print, that you can still move forward, you can still create. If I stopped every time I had something go wrong with a project, I'd never make anything. So I think it's really important to see that you can take something that, I mean, this did not look good when I first showed it to you. This did not look good at all. And we've made something amazing, and it looks like how it's supposed to. So there's nothing stopping you.